What I want to do now, I want to go ahead and quickly dive into one of the big results in college hoops on Saturday. Now, bluntly, we will have the full reaction on Sunday and Monday's Aaron Torres pod. But at the same time, there was a result that I do think is at least worth doing about a 7, 8, 9 minute reaction to. And it is the game that took place 4 p.m. Eastern, Rupp Arena in Lexington, Kentucky, where the Kentucky Wildcats, a lot of peaks, a lot of valleys this season. They are coming off a loss at LSU at the buzzer. They were hosting the SEC leading Alabama Crimson Tide. So you're wondering, can Kentucky bounce back? They just won at Auburn. Alabama's rolling. They just won in overtime against Florida. What do we make of this game? Well, what we make is, and what we saw was, frankly, one of the great performances that anyone has had anywhere in college basketball all season long. As the Kentucky Wildcats beat Alabama, how about this? 117-95 was the final score. You know it's a good day when you have 59 points at the half. You know it's a good day when you cross the 100-point threshold by about the 7-8 minute mark of the second half. This is college hoops. This isn't the NBA. College hoops, 117 points. And the crazy part was Kentucky kind of let their foot off the gas. They were up by as much as 33 points in the second half before they cruise to a 22-point victory. Now, on the one hand, look, I did say on Friday's Aaron Torres pod, I liked Kentucky to win, and it was because for a lot of the reasons that ended up happening. Both teams want to get up and down. Both teams want to score. And I said bluntly, I think Kentucky just has better players. That's not to take away from what Kentucky did against Alabama, but I liked them. I thought this was a good matchup for them. And this is a matchup-based sport, especially in league play when everybody knows everybody else. With that said, I cannot take credit for what happened on Saturday, as 117 points kind of boggles my mind in terms of just how dominant, just how great this effort was. There's nothing else to say. Listen, I know fans get mad when you just kind of quote the box score, but the box score kind of says it all for Kentucky in this game. Not just 117 points, but 5 different players finishing in double figures. How about this? 13 of 24, 54% from three. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different players hit at least 1 3, 4 for 4 from Justin Edwards, 2 for 3 for Antonio Reeves, 3 for 5 for Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, even Big Z got into the mix. So 117 points, 63% shooting for the field, 54% from three. Again, as good of an effort as we've seen from anyone, anywhere in college hoops all year. Beyond that, let me also say this. Justin Edwards, to quote Coach Prime, to Coach Deion Sanders, Justin Edwards is coming, baby, okay? And listen, I know that there is so much discourse and conversation around John Calipari at this time of year. I understand there are fans that are frustrated. I understand there are fans that are happy. I understand there are fans that are caught in the middle of the two of them, okay? But one thing I will always defend John Calipari on is he has always been so good through the years. He always plays those young, high upside guys early in the season, even when he struggles, even when they struggle, because he knows at some point he's going to need them and they will click eventually if you keep putting them out there. I've said this for years. The best example I remember, maybe prior to this year, Tyler Hero, about the first 6 to 8 weeks he was at Kentucky, was basically unplayable. I mean, he was awful. He was getting killed on defense. He wasn't hitting shots, whatever. And Calipari kept saying, I believe in him. I believe in him. I believe in him. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out. And what ended up happening? By the end of the year, he was one of the best players in college basketball in 2019. And it's the same with Justin Edwards, at least to this point. For weeks, Kentucky fans, and I have the tweets, they're in my mentions. Listen, I've criticized John Calipari for a lot this year. I've never once said that he needs to play Justin Edwards fewer minutes. If I have, find it on one of the clips, I'll send you money. I don't believe that I've ever said that, because I know that for all the criticism John Calipari takes, this is one of the things that he does well. He keeps instilling confidence in these kids, these high upside kids that have NBA potential, and he knows, just keep giving them time, they're going to figure it out. Well, Justin Edwards had not just a great game, he had a relatively historic game, 28 points, okay, for the true freshman from Philly. But how about this? 10 for 10 from the field, 4 for 4 from three, 4 for 5 from the foul line, also had 5 rebounds and 2 assists as well. So great effort from Kentucky. But if Kentucky has this guy clicking right now, oh my goodness, I am here to tell you, it takes Kentucky to another level. And so when I look at Kentucky in the bigger picture after this game, This goes back to what we talked about on Wednesday night after Kentucky beat LSU. What did I say after that game? I was frustrated with Kentucky, not because they lost, not because they even lost at the buzzer, but because all of the progress that they had made the game before against Auburn, they were taking a step back in that LSU game. Auburn a week ago, last Saturday, what did they do? They were so good because, to their credit, they came out and for a full 40 minutes were locked in on both ends of the court. Remember, last week, Auburn, that was a defensive effort for 40 minutes. They got enough offense, but they held Auburn to 59 points. And I kept saying, if you get that defensive effort all year, you could beat anybody. And you didn't get it from against LSU. You were great defensively early. Then you hit a lull. Then you went on a 16-0 run. And then you let your foot off the gas. And so I do hope that this game, from the Kentucky perspective, I hope that it leads to a light bulb moment with this team. And the light bulb is we have to come out ready to go on both ends of the court every single game. We can't play up to competition. We can't play down to competition. We can't be really good when it's Auburn or Alabama. We can't be bad when it's LSU or some other team towards the bottom of the standings. And so that, to me, that is the whole key to this whole season. Listen, everybody, including me, has been critical of John Calipari, and I don't regret anything I said. But at this point, it is on those 12, 13 guys on that team with those uniforms on. Because when they come in locked in, there's nobody that they can't beat. I know UConn's great. You go on down the list, but I'm not saying that they would beat anybody. But listen, this is a team that's beaten North Carolina. This is a team that's beaten Auburn at Auburn. This is a team that just beat the SEC leading Alabama Crimson Tide. And so I just look at this team and I keep sitting there saying, like, man, oh man, this is what it comes down to. Will you be locked in from the beginning for all 40 minutes? Because if you do that, you'll be fine. Now, if you don't, you'll have a situation like Tennessee where you get blown out of the building early and then you're trying to scramble to rally. You'll have a situation like Gonzaga where you get blown out of the building early, you come all the way back, but there's not enough gas in the tank because you allowed yourself to fall down. And so there's nothing else for me to say other than that, like, it's all there for Kentucky. I still look at this team. Listen, I watch all these teams. I'm not saying Kentucky is the best team. But what I am saying is when they are locked in on both ends, they don't even have to be great offensive or defensively. They just have to be a B to a B plus, and they could beat anybody in this sport. So it's a great win, great team effort. I think it's crazy. I still think there is another level for them to go. DJ Wagner has struggled the last couple of weeks. There's already the discourse of don't play DJ. No, I disagree. It's the same with Justin Edwards. Keep feeding DJ. Give him confidence. He's going to be okay. But Kentucky gets the win. By the way, credit where it's due, man. John Calipari, listen, we've all been critical, myself included. I've said it a few times on this reaction. But I was thinking about this, and I did tweet it out after the game. You know, Kentucky, how about this? 2 weeks ago, Kentucky loses to Gonzaga at home. What was it? The last week of January, first week of February. I guess it was early February. I bring it up because that was kind of rock bottom for Kentucky. They had lost 3 straight at home. 2 of the games, they got blown off the floor early and had to rally, as I just said. But I bring it up because after the game, I put out a poll on Twitter and I said, who do you want, Kentucky fans? This is not going well. Who do you want as your next head coach? We got all sorts of answers: Dan Hurley, Jay Wright, Billy Donovan, etc. But I would say the 3 most popular answers, who I think to varying degrees are realistic, were Chris Beard, were Bruce Pearl, and were Nate Oates. Now, Nate Oates has a huge buyout, whatever. We're not going to get into who could or will be the next coach. But I just bring it up because who are Kentucky's last 3 wins against? They were against Bruce Pearl, Chris Beard, and Jay Wright. Or not Jay Wright. That'd be pretty crazy if it was Jay Wright. Bruce Pearl, Nate Oates, and Chris Beard. So listen, everybody wants to bury Cal, everybody this, that, the other thing. Listen, this guy still has some gas left in the tank. I still like this team. I still believe in them. I do think it is about, as I just said, though, coming out for a full 40 minutes, being ready to go every single time you play. To quote Wedding Crashers, rule number 76, no excuses, play like a champion, okay? But when I look at this team, like I do still think everything is there. I do still think everything they want to accomplish, they are capable of doing. It just comes down to, can they do it consistently? And I think it's also worth noting, like, it is interesting to talk about Kentucky I said this, I did an interview in Philly with my buddy Sean Brace, and he said, like, what do you make of Kentucky? And I said, it's tough because you want to fairly critique them, but you also want to contextualize things. And I bring it up because there are times where it feels like you can take one individual play and it's like basically all these games could have been won. LSU, they basically lost because of a box out. Florida, if they just fouled up 3, would have won that game. And so they're not that far off from being like a 2 or a 3 seed, even though I think Lenardi's probably going to have him as a 5 or a 6 coming out of this weekend. I think he was a 5 this weekend, so they'll probably be on that 4-5 line. Anyway, I could go on and on. Great win for Kentucky. Really quick for Alabama. It sucks. It really does. To me, though, I don't know that I can sit here and say there's some grand indictment on Alabama. I think non-Alabama fans are saying, well, look, they got blown out at Kentucky. They got blown out at Auburn. They got blown out at Tennessee. And in the out of conference, they lost to all the best teams on the schedule. Arizona, Purdue, whoever. Well, I bring it up because to me, that doesn't, I didn't really learn anything about Alabama because it's for all the same reasons that I said on Friday's show. I said, look, I think that Nate Oates is doing the best coaching job of his career at Alabama at the very least, because I don't think this team is nearly as good as either of the 2 teams that won the SEC in 2023 last year or 2021 a year ago. And so to sit here and say this is the worst thing that's ever happened to Alabama, that would be to imply that they're somehow underachieving or they somehow didn't come ready to play on Saturday. I don't think that they didn't come ready to play. I just think that they wanted to play the same style as Kentucky, and Kentucky's got better dudes on the floor. That's not a knock. That's not a discredit of Kentucky. It is just a reality. You go across the floor, listen, outside of maybe the one spot, Mark Sears versus DJ Wagner, Kentucky's got better dudes at every spot. So it's not a criticism. It's just a reality. But to me, this doesn't say anything about Alabama that we didn't already know. I think they're one of the better stories in the sport. If the season ended today, I would give Nate Oates SEC Coach of the Year. Really do think he's doing a good job. We'll see what happens next. Let's see who is next for these 2 teams. Kentucky, they return to the court. Let's see here. They return to the court on the 27th, which is Tuesday at Mississippi State. That one will not be an easy one. And then from Alabama's perspective, I believe they go on the road and they play at Ole Miss, that on Wednesday. So busy day of college hoops. We'll have full reaction. We'll record Sunday night, the Aaron Torres pod, full reaction to the whole weekend, but wanted to react quickly to Kentucky, Alabama. And as I said, great win for Kentucky. Not that worried about Alabama. One quick thing, by the way. Do me a quick favor. You enjoyed this video, subscribe to the Aaron Torres pod YouTube channel. Put on the notifications. A lot of college hoops content coming these next few months. Season, postseason, portal. We're going to have you covered. Click and subscribe.